Hello everyone, welcome to Africa Unchained. News broke out that President Museveni had appointed an acting CEO for Uganda Airlines as Bamuturaki stepped aside. It did not just sound like a routine administrative change, it sounds like a moment of reckoning, a moment when a country is forced to look at itself in the mirror and ask one painful question: why did we start this airline in the first place, and where exactly are we taking it? And then came a strong voice of Ssemujju Nganda, raising concerns that many Ugandans whisper in taxis, in offices, and in homes, but rarely yet addressed openly. His argument was simple but heavy. The reason for starting an airline determines everything. If you start it on pride, it will run on pride. If you start it on profit, it will run on numbers. If you start it for ego, it will bleed. He asked something that many fear to ask. Did Uganda really understand what it was getting into when he revised the airline? Did anyone sit down and tell the public this will lose 200 billion shillings every year for the next decade? Did anyone honestly calculate the losses before the first plane took off? Or did the country wake up one morning and decide emotionally that we must have an airline because others have one? The story, as told by critics, it is dramatic. It is said that the revival of Uganda Airlines was not born out of a national aviation strategy, but out of frustration. The presidential jet reportedly needed repairs. Requests were made to borrow aircraft. Ethiopia could not provide one. Kenya sent one, Nganda followed, and suddenly the decisions to restart a national carrier gained momentum. If this is even partly true, then Uganda's airline was born not from careful planning, but from wounded pride. And this is where Ethiopia enters the conversation. Ethiopia's airline is often praised as Africa's only consistent airline. People talk about its discipline, its services, its food, and its global network. They say Ethiopian Airlines is not just a company, it is a symbol of national pride. Workers there do not just work for salaries, they work for country. Whether that statement is fully accurate or romanticized, but one thing is clear: Ethiopian Airlines has built a reputation that others envy. So when Museveni appointed an acting CEO with roots in the Ethiopian aviation system, some people celebrate. They say we are bringing in expertise. Finally, we are learning from the best. But others like Ssemujju Nganda are not convinced. They ask, why must we always look outside? Is Uganda so empty of competence? Ssemujju argues that airlines by nature are not profitable machines. Even globally, many struggle. No one rushes to buy it because they are expensive, complex, and risky. They are floatings. So the real question is, what is Uganda Airlines supposed to be? A profit-making machine, a tourism engine, or a presidential trophy engine, or a prestige project?
Many times they have grown. That airline remained the only functional company, even when Ethiopia as a country collapsed. Why? It's a source of pride. The people working in it don't take money out of it. So Museveni acts arbitrarily. So when were the adverts done? Does anyone know the target of this new Ethiopian? What is his target upon which you are going to judge him? Is it traffic? Is it money? Is it buying of aircraft? So what is the target for which Ugandans should on day one begin evaluating this Ethiopian? Or it's just business as usual. You just bring in one person, he fails, you now go to Cairo and bring an Egyptian, he fails, you go to London and bring a Muzungu. I want to start with the target. What were the targets when Museveni was hand-picking her? Because I have told you, all the airlines in Africa loss making. Did we know how much loss we will make by reviving the Uganda airline? So if you are judging Bamuturaki emotionally, you're going to make the same mistakes. Because there are people who think when you bring an Ethiopian, Uganda airline will be making profits. That Kenya airline, Ruto was in America, the president of Kenya, looking for a buyer. Nobody wants to buy it. So airline is not a profitable business. You only benefit from an airline by tourism and trade. So even before we evaluate Bamuturaki and the money and the corruption, is Uganda Airlines the only corrupt company in Uganda that oh, this is something that is unheard of in Uganda. All the companies under Museveni, whether it is ministers or MPs, they are all looking for money. So maybe now that's why he wants to hire people from outside, and I hope he can begin by hiring a president. In a business, salaries are supposed to be determined by the output. If I bring a CEO from wherever and then give him targets, because many CEOs earn by bonuses. If I'm going to give you a target of reducing losses, if you have been making losses of 200 billion and you reduce them by 100, why shouldn't I give you $1 billion shilling from the beginning? For me, it is the target that you determine the salary and the output. Even if you take no salary, but the company continues being mismanaged, there is no value in it. So the value is measured against targets. Okusoka Museveni ne Uganda bakomyawo Uganda Airlines nga tebamaze kola kunoonyereza kumala. Dubi lwaki yali yagwa. Kati buli kye bakola bakikolera mu ngeri ya kupapirira. Ennyonyi mu nsi yonna oteekwa okusalawo lwaki ogitandise. Mu Africa ekitongole ky'ennyonyi kyokka kyokka ekikola amagoba kya Ethiopia. Lwaki kikola amagoba? Ethiopia bagitambuza nga amagye nga Russia tetuuka ku North Korea naye eri awo wakati. Omuntu mu Ethiopia asobola n'okukolera obwereere nga bakolera ggwanga. Nze nali Ethiopia nga memba wa parliament bamuwa $200. Mu Uganda buli memba wa parliament nga nange kwendi tufuna sente zisuka $1,000. Naye ate nze okusanga bamemba wa parliament aba Ethiopia batusinga okukola. Kati okuleta Ethiopia lwaki ekola amagoba? Tandikira ku bakozi abalimu. Abakozi b'ennyonyi abakola mu Ethiopia bakolera ggwanga, tebakolera musaala. Kyekiri mu kukola mu Ethiopia wonna. Ennyonyi buli wogitandika nga tutegedde lwaki ogitandika emenya. Egypt balina ennyonyi emu kuzisinga obunene n'obukadde wano. South Africa baziina. Eye Kenya yabalemerera. Government nejja ku Kenya Airways nayo negiremerera. Ruto mwamulaba nga ali mu America anoonya agigula era n'agigula n'abula. Kubanga ennyonyi gitunuulire mu bintu bibiri. Abawalabu batandika ennyonyi Emirates kata n'endala nga tebazinoonya mu magoba, bazinoonya kuleeta abantu. E Dubai ng'ekibuga buli mwaka kifuna abalambula abasukka 5,600,000. B'ennyonyi bagitunuulira nga egenda okuleeta bizinensi. Mu Uganda bagitunuulira egenda okuleeta abalambuzi n'abajja okusuubula amagoba ne bagafunira walala. Mu America ne mu Bulaaya ennyonyi bagiraba nga ntambula. Ne bw'olinnye ennyonyi y'Ebulaaya yo mu America bajula na butakuwa mmere. Bw'olaba akalangiti ke bakuwa okwebaka nga obudde bukuzibiddemu, bw'okatuusa ku bigere ku mutwe tekabeerako. Bw'olinnya kata obudde ne buziba bakwalira ekitanda obeera nga ali waka. Kubanga benjawulo weeri nti bano baasalawo ennyonyi luxury bali ntambula. Kakati ekyo Museveni ne bannayuganda kyebasooka okutegeera bamanye nti ennyonyi tugitandise ku lwaki. Bw'oba oyagala abantu kujja mu Uganda, Uganda buli mwaka efuna abantu abayitira entebbe gavumenti beyita abalambuzi wakati wa $1,400,000 okutuuka ku $2,000,000. Bw'oba target buli gwogenda okulonda nga manager w'ennyonyi oteeka okumuwa target. Twagala oyongere ku bantu abajja mu Uganda bafuke 3,000,000. Kubanga ennyonyi y'Emirates eyinza okuba nga omwaka etambuza abantu basukka 2,200,000 naye abayingira mu Dubai bali 5,400. Ekyokubiri tetwagala kugisasanyizako ssente nnyingi. Ekyo tekko kisalawo. Ethiopia nali njirinyemu ne Uganda Airlines. Mu Ethiopia bajula kukuwa biberenge basobole okufiisa ssente. Mu Uganda Airlines bakuwa mmere. Kati ebyo omuntu agenda okuyingira mu nnyonyi ndaba waliwo okubugumirira kungi nti muleete aba Ethiopia kuba bakola amagoba. Oyo bagenda kumugoba nga wakayita emyaka egi bwe banaabeera nga tebamaze kulambula bulungi lwaki Uganda Airlines weeri.
Museveni is not an expert in interviewing airline workers, managers, among others. It is very concerning that Parliament and COSASE has investigated Uganda Airlines and made various sensitive recommendations, including advising that recruitment within Uganda Airlines at the various levels must be done in accordance with the law. Let's have expatriates, let's have advertisements so that people apply, not random picking, because we are repeating the same mistake. Recently, as we are interviewing Bamturachi, she made an assertion that for her, appointment was a gift as a CEO. So we don't want to repeat the same story that even this new one, this old man, is going to also arrange that it's a gift from Mr. Museveni. No, let's have a public advertisement and public application. So that, and even the interview must be done by experts in aviation and airline business. Otherwise, we risk repeating the same mistakes. I doubt that there will be any improvement. But again, this random picking and nomination, where appointment is by directives and direction from Mr. Museveni, is very concerning. And if this man visited Mr. Museveni, what questions did he ask this man? How could he verify that he's an expert in that area? He needed to hire experts. Maybe he would have formed the part of the interview panel to advertise and interview workers and potential replacement for Mamuturachi. But this kind of random picking might take us in the same circle of making losses within the aviation sector for Uganda Airlines. It is very concerning.
What does the mismanagement mean to the taxpayer?
Oh, of course, a lot of money is spent on Uganda Airlines. As last time we interrogated, Uganda Airlines had different spare parts for each part of the aircraft. You would find the body is for Bombardier, the door is for Boeing, among others. We cannot have a very disgruntled packaging of our aircrafts, and you expect to perform. As well, in terms of awarding tenders, contracts, and recruitment, there must be adherence to the law. Once all these are not adhered to, and we have incompetent people in office, you won't have effective service delivery and management. We shall be repeating the same story. And in event, a lot of money is being spent on Uganda Airlines. For the last years, it has been making losses, and Ugandans are spending. This is taxpayers' money spent on an airline that doesn't make profits and that doesn't progress. If we repeat the same story, we shall continue making losses, huge losses in the billions of money, or at the expense of a taxpayer. And Ugandan taxpayers also need accountability and the value for money. No, this man is just alleged to be experienced, but we are not sure. We must have expatriates to assess. Merely serving and serving near an airline doesn't mean that you are experienced. It is a question of paperwork and documentation. And to assess experience, it requires expatriates, not just someone who served. Because those airlines are highly developed. People perform very little in a big establishment. You cannot say that he knows it all. Probably he was in marketing, or he was in another segment, and you say he's experienced. Experience is not a question of how old you are or which company you served before. It involves much more. So I'm not convinced yet that he's experienced. It is a question of a question of interview. He hasn't been interviewed, and I have confidence and trust and assurance that Mr. Museveni has no capacity to assess competence.